Everybody ready?
Ready.
You ready? Right.
So are they taking pictures of all the questions you're gonna ask us?
No, they can scan that. They can scan the question.
Oh, gotcha.
So that
Gotcha.
it gets, could get added to my list and, you know, if they have a better question than I, which they probably do, then.
Gotcha.
So.
See, and that's the only case of
I bet tomorrow will be just a little bit tougher though than this one tonight.
Yeah, we have 6 of these, so, yeah, so it'll be, yeah, it's always tougher when you add more candidates to that conversation, so. Well, we'll get going here and then, ready to roll? Perfect. Alrighty, well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight to learn more about the candidates running for the West Fargo City Commission. My name is Cale Dunwoody, and I serve as the Vice President of Public Policy at the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Chamber and the Building Industry Association, we're glad to welcome you to this important community conversation. Tonight's debate is a part of the Chamber's Center for Civic Engagement Initiative and its ongoing work to ensure voters feel informed, prepared, and confident when participating in local elections. Our goal isn't just to share the information tonight, it's to help the attendees here in person and watching online walk away ready to engage. Whether that means asking questions to the candidates, talking with neighbors, or showing up to vote, your participation is ultimately what shapes the future of our community. This election matters. The decisions made by the West Fargo City Commission will directly influence how West Fargo grows, how we invest in infrastructure and in public safety, and how it will support residents and businesses in the years ahead. The leadership chosen on June 9th will help define the community we live in tomorrow. My role this evening is to guide the conversation, ensure it remains fair and balanced and focused on the issues that matter most to our community. Here's just a little bit of how tonight is going to work. Each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes for opening remarks. From there, we'll move into a moderated discussion on issues that matter to West Fargo and the overall region, followed by which each candidate will be given 1 minute response, followed by a rapid response round. Then we'll wrap up with a 1 minute closing remark for each candidate. Just a note that the candidates were not provided the questions, they were just provided an overview of the topics that were going to be discussed tonight, and they weren't permitted to bring any written notes this evening, but they may take notes during the debate. Thank you again for being here and for helping create a respectful space for tonight's conversation. As we begin, I encourage those in the attendance not just to listen to what sounds good, but for what aligns with your priorities and what kind of leader you want to see in our community. Now we'll move into opening remarks from each of the candidates. This is where each will get a chance to briefly introduce themselves, maybe share some priorities and explain why they're seeking the city commission spot. So we will move left to right, I guess as you're looking at us, from left to right, and then as we close, it'll be the reverse order, and we'll stagger who starts each question throughout the discussion. So, Dave, you want to start us off?
Sure. I'm Dave Withy. I'm running for city commission out of a sense of civic responsibility. I have no political ambitions. I'm retired. I have no axe to grind, and I have no conflicts with other organizations. I just want to make certain that our taxes are used efficiently and productively. I spent the last 3 years discussing issues of the city in comments to the city commission with individual commissioners and managers, by writing articles that are printed in the forum, and through talk shows. I'm running for the office because I have the time and I have the background. I'm a graduate of MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I'm a co-founder of West Fargo TAP, Citizens for Transparency, Accountability, and Professionalism. I've served in several companies on the senior staff in the laboratory construction industry, managing people and budgets. I have And I also chaired the Board of Directors of the International Trade Association. I've served as chair of the board of a hospital in Wisconsin, as well as the regional treasurer for that same healthcare organization. I'm the candidate who's prepared to hit the ground running with the budget and with the position. I hope that you'll find the same and will vote for me and for financial management being done well. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for hosting this.
Thank you. Patty?
Thank you. My name is Patty Stedman, and I am a long-term West Fargo person. We built our first house, or bought our first house in 1991 and built a second house. I have 3 children and a husband. My 3 kids are currently still live in the area and all work in our community. I decided to run for city commission. I believe that our community is great, and I want to see it continue to be great for our next generation. And I think we're better if we work together. I'm a longtime school board member, and I work on 4 other boards across the region, state, and even into the national level. And I think that by the more strong leadership that we ask questions of our community, that we can continue to grow and be fiscally responsible. So as we look forward to what's next for West Fargo, we've had a lot of growth, but I think there's still growth to be had. What does that look like? What do we need? What does the school need? What does the public need? What jobs do we need? And I think that they're symbiotically, we all work together. So if we can provide jobs for our community, that we can encourage families to move in, which then fills our schools, which then provides us for our own workforce. I'm excited to be a part of this process. I think that my leadership skills on the current boards that I serve on, that I listen more than I talk. So this is not my favorite thing to do, is to talk more than I listen. But thank you for your time, and I appreciate the chamber putting on this event.
Thank you. Tyler?
Thank you, everybody. Thanks to the chamber for putting on the candidate forum, and thanks to all of you for showing up. Really appreciate it. I mentioned in one of the last forums that 20% of North Dakota in 2024 voted in the primary election. And in fact, in West Fargo, only 14% of the city voted in the primary election. So, people here in person, people watching online, it's so important that, people are engaged in these local elections because they do impact our lives at a very intimate level. Everybody, Tyler Erickson, 33 years old. I'm an attorney. I work for the state of North Dakota. I'm originally from Williston. I've lived all around the state between my 20s to my 30s. I've worked in the beverage distribution sector. I've worked for Coca-Cola, worked for the oil field. I bring a breadth of diverse experiences and work experiences to this job. Currently, in my role as an attorney with the North Dakota Insurance and Securities Department, I do a large amount of different things, but I think that role particularly has equipped me to, be a good leader in this role. I'm running for West Fargo City Commission because, number one, as I've said before many times, I don't think anybody can afford to be politically disengaged these days in May of 2026. I also, as a 30-year-old North Dakotan, I don't ever see anybody my age getting politically involved. And I think that there needs to be more representation of younger demographics on these leadership boards who are so extremely affected by all of the policies. Thank you.
John?
Good evening. My name is John Severson. I also like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event. My wife and I have lived in West Fargo for 15 years. We've moved around several places, but I think we finally found a home here in West Fargo, and we've stayed here for quite a while. I have 20 years of management and transportation with both top line and bottom line budgeting experience, and I've been asked, or voluntold, some people say, to do more with less each and every year. And I think that's what government needs to start doing, is to learn how to do less, or do more with less each and every year. Fiscal responsibility within the city is, I think, at the utmost critical point right at this moment. The 3% cap is going to make a make things more difficult. But I think we should start looking at ways to even beat the 3% cap and come in underneath that. I think government needs to be small, and if it's smaller, it's transparent, and it can be held more accountable, and hopefully it would be professional. I think a smaller government that needs to be more efficient and only provide this in the city the services, the essential services that citizens can't produce or provide for themselves. I think that's my goal, is to find ways to reduce the budget each and every year, and while still maintaining the services that everybody expects. Thank you.
Great, thank you all for those opening remarks. Now we'll transition into the Q&A portion. Again, this is where I'll ask a question that we've prepared, and each candidate will get 1 minute to respond. For the folks in the audience or listening online, just would encourage you to visit chamberquestions.com or scan the QR code that's on the screen, and that'll pop up right in front of me here. I've already gotten several questions that have popped up, which is fantastic, and I'll interweave those into the conversation this evening. I don't want it just to be the questions that Kale put together, but really want to answer the questions of the folks that are in the audience. Now, kind of continuing on the background and experience, and we'll start with Patty on this one. Can you dive a little bit more into what personal, professional, or community experiences have best prepared you to serve on the West Fargo City Commission, and what makes you stand out as a candidate?
Thank you for that. I'm currently starting my 19th year on the West Fargo School Board. I got involved with the schools kind of for the same reason I got involved with this process, is I believe that if you don't know something, it's better to get involved and ask the questions and find out the answers instead of just complaining. I also serve on a licensing board. My husband is an accountant, so we've been in part of financing, and I worked in the retail market for 20 years. So I have a lot of experience talking with people. I do a lot with collaboration. I think that's very important. I don't claim to know everything, and I rely on the people who know more than me to bring those questions to light that we need to fix, but also their expertise.
Great, thank you. Tyler, same question to you.
So I serve in a couple different capacities. Particularly, I think one of the biggest things is, as I mentioned before, the North Dakota Insurance Department, we regulate insurance and securities. Through that process, we're enforcing the law against licensees throughout the state. We do procurement, public procurement, which is spending public money within the confines of the law. We negotiate contracts with internal and external entities within and outside of the state. Those are all things that we're going to be doing here if we are elected as a commissioner. The other thing that I do is I serve as a trustee on NDPER's Board of Trustees. It's the Benefits Administration Agency for the state of North Dakota. Prior to this debate, just had the audit subcommittee meeting. Through there, we had an hour-and-a-half meeting where we're going through the financials, we're auditing benefits, different things like that. We're making decisions about hiring. I think that'll be good experience I can bring to the commission.
John?
As I stated, I've had 20 years in transportation management. I've managed multiple terminals where I've had 3 or 4 that were remote. I've been managing one. I've managed teams from 7 to 150 plus. Operationally, that's always a challenge. I think budgeting and operations are really a strong suit for myself, and I think leadership as well. I think that this position comes down to leadership. Are you going to be a leader? Do you lead with integrity? Are you going to lead with consistency? And I think that's the goal, my goal, and I believe I'm qualified for in that.
Great, thank you. David?
I agree that leadership in particular is important in this position. And my background, I've had to deal with very tough decisions like 2008, 2009 housing bubble burst, which many of you may not have experienced, but we had to make a lot of really tough decisions to keep companies alive back in those days. I've always believed in growing people who work for me. That means you be skeptical, you push back, not because you don't trust them, but because you want them to grow, because you don't want them to make mistakes. There are going to be difficult challenges going forward. I've had successful teams. Our trade association, I led a group to put together 30-year goals that they're still using 26 years later. I believe you'll all appreciate that as I serve as your next commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We will move on to the next question, and we'll start with Tyler on this question. How do you work with people you deeply disagree with?
Great question. I think that, to me, as I've mentioned in the past, you have to work to persuade others to see your position as best you can. That means mutual respect. That means listening. That means finding a place of common ground. And of course, that doesn't always happen. You know, I've noted West Fargo in particular, the commission I've seen on multiple occasions vigorously debate and disagree on things. And it's one of the reasons that I'm running for the West Fargo City Commission, is because I think that the professionalism that the people bring as a leadership team when making decisions, I think that it's admirable, and I don't see it all around the state. So mutual respect, common ground, listening, and those are the things.
Thank you. John?
I feel that if you talk to somebody enough, whether you like them or dislike them, you don't have to like them to work with them. But I think if you really look deep down at most people, there's probably 80% that everybody agrees on. You know, safe streets, schools, things like that. It's the 20% that maybe divides us politically. But if you focus more on the 80% than on the 20%, you can find a way to a path forward. So I don't think you focus on the things that you dislike about a person. You focus on the things that you can like about them and find agreement on. And then that will build a friendship and a trust that allows you to get things done. That they know you're not just battling to battle. I mean, I think you got to be professional. You got to be a leader. You have to lead from a standpoint of doing what is best for the city. And I'm willing to work with anybody who's willing to work on the right problems.
Thank you. David?
To make iron stronger, you don't make it purer. You add different materials into it to make it stronger. Teams are the same way. Differing opinions give you better solutions. And that's what I'm always looking for. I want to work with people whose opinions are different than mine. I expect them to be just as opinionated as I am, but be willing to change as quickly as I do when I get better data. Because in the end, whether we personally get along well together or not, at the end of the discussion, we should still be able to sit down at the end of the day and have a beer together, just like Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill did. Look them up in the internet. Thank you.
Patty?
I agree. I think that mutual respect has to be foremost and most important. I don't believe that we're always going to agree. In the boards that I'm a part of, I just ask that if you have a different opinion, that share why you have a different opinion and explain so that maybe the conversation that you have or why you think something is wrong might persuade my opinion, and it may not. But in the end, mutual respect is so important. You have to be professional. You have to realize when it's done that your opinion is okay, my opinion is okay. We need to work together. But as a commission, and you have 5 votes, that in the end, whatever is the majority that's the majority. And I think that we have to respect that when we go out into the public that you may not always like, but we're more successful if we do share our opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question here, and we'll start with John on this one. If elected to the city commission, what would be your top 3 priorities over the next 4 years?
Try to make housing more affordable by reducing or eliminating specials. Work on fiscal responsibility within the city and budgeting. And I think just try to maintain the growth while not letting it get too far out of hand where it can't be managed very well. I think those are probably my top three priorities.
Great. David?
I think this is a pretty easy one to answer. I think most people, once again, fiscal responsibility. Number 2, personal growth in our management team. 2/3 of our management team have been in their positions for less than 3 years. Many of them had no management team position before that. So they need to have some mentoring to go with there. And third priority is to keep West Fargo as a great place to live, work, and raise a family. That's why we settled in West Fargo when we moved here.
Thank you. Patty?
Thank you. I'm just going to do them in a different order. First one, I'm going to do community partnerships. I think it's so valuable that when the community works together, we're stronger. I think the city has done a great job doing some of that, but I think it can even be better. So having parks, county, school boards, developers, the city all work together to make sure that the plan we're moving forward with will be sustainable, but also help the city become even better than it is. So that's one. Fiscal responsibility, I think, is a primary goal for all of us. We want to make sure we're spending our money correctly. We don't want the old West Fargo to feel like they're old. All of West Fargo is still West Fargo. So make sure we do that in the right order. And then maintain, again, going back to maintaining our growth and being fiscally responsible. I think we need to encourage businesses to come in. I think that they will help grow our own with our jobs. We'll bring, our families, which will then will fill our schools, which will keep West Fargo vibrant. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler?
Yeah, I would say, the budget is going to be the cornerstone of any three of the different things that any one of us talk about. Number one, I think as the diversion comes online, we want to grow responsibly with overextending our finances. I think, our essential services along with that 3% cap and the challenges posed by that, those are going to be prioritized over everything. So public works, police, fire, those are going to be prioritized. And, making sure that maybe some of the other, maybe less essential services don't feel like they get left behind. So balancing that equation budgetarily. And then, when I moved here, when my wife and I moved here, we moved here because we love the parks, we love the schools, we love the safe and clean city. It was something that we desired, and so maintaining the appeal of West Fargo. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the next question here, and this is kind of looking out ahead. So looking ahead 5 years, and we'll start with David on this one. Looking out 5 years, what do you see as the most significant opportunities and challenges facing West Fargo?
Thank you for that. When you look out, there's going to be a big change when the lagoon property is made available, when the diversion property is made available. And that's going to make tough decisions. We have to think about what growth really means, because growing for growth's sake isn't necessarily good. For instance, our schools are already pretty full, and we have gifts that keep on taking tax money away from us, because every time you put in some infrastructure, you now have to have a maintenance plan without using specials. I think we're going to see that our tax system is going to be done differently. For instance, the sales tax that's used in Bismarck is used instead of specials, not in addition to. So I think what we'll see in 5 years is a community that's either grown carefully and is a great place still, or which has grown irresponsibly and has left something even worse for those who come after us. Thank you.
I think the diversion and the land that's going to be coming on board for development will be an opportunity and a challenge. What we want to happen in that area and what we'll be able to afford might be two different things. We also have to look at, David mentioned schools. What will we be able to provide, if we do a new development, will we be able, the taxpayers help us build another school? And, we just went through that. The 3% cap will become a budgetary concern, I think, for everybody. Right now, I think the city is doing a good job maintaining that. Going forward, that may not be possible, and what that looks like, since there's not a lot of revenue sources for the city. So I think both of those will be next 5-year challenges.
Tyler?
Yeah, so 3% cap in mind, I think we're going to have to continue to share resources with the other political subs around here. I think that that's going to be the most fiscally prudent way to move forward for all of the political subs, is to share resources. And this is one of those times where I'm going to disagree with Mr. Withy and Mr. Severson, is that as long as the bonding for special assessments doesn't negatively impact in a way that detrimentally allows the city to borrow money at a good interest rate. Special assessments need to continue to be used as an affordability tool for both ends of the income spectrum, the fixed income older individuals and the younger people just trying to enter the housing market. So just a point of disagreement there, but the key is just affordability overall while maintaining fiscally prudent outlook for the city that doesn't jeopardize long-term planning.
John?
I think one of the biggest things that we're gonna have to worry about over the next 5 years is how do we increase the percentage of businesses to homes? West Fargo has a lot of homes, right? And we need more businesses to bring in, sales tax revenue, whatever, like those kind of things. As far as the budget, and we talk about the budget, and I know special assessments are an issue, but every house you look at, the budget, or the debt in West Fargo right now is around 138 million. That's, if you drive through West Fargo, that's $12,000 per house. Every house you see, $12,000. That's going to be an issue. How do you put another house in if it's going to cost $12,000 just for the city? And so maintaining the growth, but also doing it in a very limited way and a responsible way. I think those are the two challenges we're going to have.
Well, we'll dive into a few, deeper questions. I just did a few background and experience and vision and priorities. Now I want to dive a little bit deeper into a lot of the things that you all have been talking about. And this one, we'll start with Patty on this one. Is last year the state legislature put in that 3% property tax cap that we've continued to hear about this evening. How will you balance maintaining core services while helping provide businesses and individuals savings on property taxes, special assessment, and utilities?
Great question, and I hope that there's somebody who's a lot smarter in finances than I am, because this is super complicated. I think the best we can do is to share resources across as many areas as we can to save money, but then I think we have to rely on, as a city commission, is to put those questions before the people who do our finances, who do our specials, who do the property tax evaluations, to make sure that we're all on the same page, and then share that to our constituents. I don't think there's an easy answer to that one. I think that every municipality is going to be faced with the same question, but so I'm going to say, let's rely on the people who understand finances a lot better than the city commission, but make sure we monitor to make sure that that's happening.
Tyler?
Yeah, I think that is the multi-million-dollar question, and we, at this point in time, we don't know the full impact of the 3% yet. I think we're still trying to understand what it looks like. The other key piece is that the 3% is exclusively to the general fund budget. The city still has levers for the utility funds, and other taxing, sales tax, of course. So, they may have to rely on those things, but I think at a ground level, and I've said this before, it's just we're going to have to revisit the fundamentals of, what the city provides, which is good because, I, as a resident of West Fargo, appreciated, the $1,600 tax credit, a little refund in my escrow. I mean, that's good government, frankly. That's, if we can utilize those resources and lessen the impact. North Dakota is on the cutting edge of doing, of housing affordability, of providing, removing barriers to entry. So, thank you.
There were years when I was in management that I would have jumped for joy to get a 3% increase in my budget. There were years that I had to produce the same results with higher fuel costs, higher labor costs, whole 9 yards, and not get any increase at all. I don't see any reason why the city can't also fund that way. If I lost my job and I went and got another job that paid me 3% less, I'd have to spend 3% less in my personal budget. I think the city should have to do the same. I don't think there's much difference between a city budget and a family budget other than the size and maybe the clarity and the transparency. But it's really no reason why the city can't do that either. I don't. If the state had said only 2%, we'd be talking about 2%. It wouldn't be 3%. So if they said 4%, we'd be saying 4%. So it's not necessarily what the state is telling you to do. It's what can you do to reduce it even below what the state is requiring, or not raising it what the state allows.
Thank you. David?
It's going to be a challenge with this 3% cap because, or more than it should be in West Fargo, because 7 of the last 9 years, we've spent more than we brought in as revenues. That's not good to be spending more than in, up to $13 million more per year. The commission needs to pay more attention. I've never seen the commission in the last 3 years actually talk about a monthly financial statement. In the first quarter of this year, our sales tax revenues are down 11%. Our general fund revenues are down 8%. Right now is when people should be saying to department heads, what are you going to cut if this continues? Because we can't overspend again. That means tough decisions need to be made. There are no sacred cows, whether it's abatements or tax incentives. You got to look at needs versus wants. Thank you.
For the next question, we'll start with Tyler on this one. In that same vein, if faced with budget constraints, would you raise taxes or cut services and programs?
Yeah, I think budget-wise, I think the very first question that we're going to have to ask is how to exist in the 3% environment. And by revisiting fundamentals, that means, salary freezes. That, you can't eliminate any options off the table. The other piece of the equation is valuations are becoming more impactful, even though the general fund budget is capped at 3%, the valuations, if us four are up here and we have the same value of a house, but one of us has a 3% increase, proportionately, they're going to pay more towards that 3% budget. I think, to me, as a commissioner, as a voting member of the commission, I won't eliminate any of the options off the table. It's just mathing is all.
But John, but just before you start, can you just everybody pull their microphone a little bit closer? I think folks in the audience can't hear quite as well. So, John, yeah, go ahead.
Why are those the only two choices? Cut services or raise taxes? Why not ask for more efficiency out of our government? I mean, why not what can we save in the streets department? What can we save the police department, the fire department, the administration? Where can we save money? Right? There are things that can be done to improve operational efficiency, which would cut costs. Right? And we don't have to cut, and we don't have to raise taxes. So I don't think there's always a third way, or even a fourth way, fifth way, whatever we got to do. If we have to cut services, if that's what it comes down to because of the 3% cap, I think that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. Those tough decisions have to be made. But raising taxes, that should be almost the last. I think taxes are already high enough as they are.
David?
Well, I'm going to sound like John or an echo of John. I agree that raising taxes should be the last option. I also believe that we need to see if there are better ways of doing what we do and then doing what we need to do. A few years ago, I sent a note to the mayor and who forwarded it on to the city administrator, who then sent me an email saying, do you have any ideas of new sources of revenue? Because we could use some. Our response was, you don't need new sources of revenue. You need to cut your spending. We're overspending. And all I've seen since then is overspending. So I think the first thing we've got to look at is what can we make more efficient? What can we cut? And then avoid raising taxes because we're already overtaxing the citizens. Thank you.
Patty?
Thanks. I think this is a very, very complicated question scenario, and I agree with John. I'm not sure that I like either choice, because to sit here and value the budget and assume that we're overspending without having the facts, I'd need the facts. I want to see, and if we think that we're overspending in public services, which I can't believe, but to decide up front that we're overspending without all the facts, I think is not responsible. For me, I think you'd have to sit down, we'd have to start from the beginning and ask those very questions. What are the priorities for the city? Are we maintaining those priorities? Are we taking care of the older West Fargo? We need to make sure we take care of the newer development in West Fargo. But until I had all of those facts, I think it'd be irresponsible for me to say, don't raise taxes, don't do specials, don't, reduce services. It's easy. So until I had those facts, I just don't think that I would want to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to business climate and economic development, diving into that a little bit. As West Fargo and our region continues to compete for investment in a rapidly changing economy, how should the city approach local incentives to expand its commercial tax base? And I know we touched on that a little bit, talking about expanding the commercial tax base while maintaining that fiscal responsibility and stewardship that you've all talked about. And this one, we'll start with John.
I'm not in favor of incentives at all. They don't work. If a business wants to locate here and they buy a plot of land and they want to build a building on it, I'm okay with an incentive to, not raise the property taxes till they're fully operational, but I don't think you should be, you're just harming the people that already live here by giving away incentives. You're just giving away money. And it's not my money, we'd be giving away the taxpayers' money. And I just don't, I don't think it's fair and appropriate for the taxpayers to fund businesses that, they could relocate after their incentive is gone.
Thank you. David?
Well, the business climate is a tough one to answer because, we're not running a business, we're running a government. We need to understand what type of businesses that we want. We're in a location that's a great center for distribution to a large regional area. And that's something that we should look at, how we can leverage that. We don't have a plan to do that here in West Fargo. If you look at the Challey Institute, or listen to the Challey Institute at North Dakota State University, it's an applied economics institute that says, here's what works and what doesn't work, and how can we apply this? And they take research from around the country. And their answer is, these incentives don't work. They work against you. I'm open to other opinions and studies, that give a different opinion, but I haven't seen them. What I'm concerned with most is that we've had a bad experience with a lot of our business incentives. Look at the Epic experience. We're still suffering from what happened with our downtown development. One of the buildings there has never been built. We're still suffering from people getting injured because of poor planning with the lights. I thank you for your time.
Patty?
I'm going to disagree. I think that incentives are a great way to encourage businesses to come into our community. We have tips, we have pilots, and although that, yes, short term, there is a tax difference, but long term, it benefits the cities. It brings in jobs, it brings in people, it brings in students again to fill our schools, and but worthy of discussion. I'm not saying that they're 100% should all be accepted. I think there has to be a process in place that evaluates each project when it comes in. Does it make sense for our community? And if it doesn't, then don't accept it. But I think in the long run, that the more business we can have to get the ratio, it'll never be 50-50, will only impact West Fargo directly. So I'm in favor of incentives.
Thank you. Tyler?
I think, prior to the 3% cap, I think, it was easier to dole out incentives because you had more flexibility in your budgeting capabilities. But now that the 3% cap is implemented, we have to be much more strict on and thoughtful about what incentives are granted because it will have an immediate impact on the budget. I'm also, balance that against, I'm a 15-year guy. When I invest in the S&P 500, I forget about it because I'm not pulling it out for 25 years. I don't care about it. I care what is going to happen in 15 to 20 years. That's what I care about. So when we talk about tax incentives, if I'm thinking about tomorrow, it's really discredits the whole idea of what an incentive is. It's a 15 to 20 year idea. And so while we're going to have to be more thoughtful, there's still many, many benefits. We just pulled a business across the river that's going to benefit West Fargo for years.
I'll take a question from the audience here for this one as well, and we'll start with David on this one. What is the plan to grow business, the commercial tax base in West Fargo? Can you dive a little bit more into your strategy and how the commission can do that and the city can do that under your leadership?
I really hope there are a lot of smarter people around than I am on that topic. I understand that incentives are a competitive thing. If everybody else does it, you suffer because you don't. What I'd rather start out with is, as has been mentioned before, is what's our plan? What makes us a good location for companies to want to come here? I want to support our existing businesses first, and then support other businesses that can complement them. Right now, we give incentives to people who compete with local businesses. And that, it means you're picking winners versus losers. So put together a plan, then find the best targets for that plan to bring those businesses in here. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
It's kind of a tough question. I think long-term, there has to be a plan for the city. What is it the city is looking to do? And then maybe that will start the conversation what businesses we need. But I think the city, through the commission, can help guide some of those decisions. But I think that our city planners have a better understanding what is out there. And I think that our mayor, who will represent the city, needs to be that focal point when they have conversations, that we go out there and search of them, not just having them come to us. I think the incentives are going to be a driver in that. I think that Tyler mentioned, businesses coming from other states coming here because we do look better than our neighboring cities. So I don't have anything direct. I think the city commission looks for those civic engagements maybe, which can bring some of those conversations, but the long-term planning has got to be the place to start.
Thank you. Tyler?
So just to touch back on what I mentioned before, I think there's not going to be, it's going to be more heavily selective about what types of incentives are approved at the commission level because of the immediate budgetary impacts. Again, pulling the business across the river, that was a great strategic move from the city. At this point, anything that comes across our desk, we're going to have concrete data that supports it, that shows that there's a 10 to 15 year outlook, that it's a fiscally worthwhile investment. And so that doesn't mean that you're going to rubber stamp projects, but you're going to have confidence in what you're about to vote on, and that this will affect people, not here right now, but 10 to 15 years out. And hopefully it will alleviate the residential property tax burden by investing in that commercial space.
Thank you. John?
There's a lot that goes into relocating a business. Available workforce, property prices, per acre, and then what's it going to cost you per square foot to build your facility? There's more to it than just incentives that go into it. So to think that just incentives will bring people in is really not correct. I mean, if the other three don't line up, if you can't get the workforce, if it's too expensive to build or buy the property, you're not going to relocate here. North Dakota, right, has a very advantage especially to Minnesota with the taxes, right? So you have lower taxes, you got a better climate, better business climate. So I think the incentive is already here. I just think we need to focus on trying to assist businesses in finding locations, helping them to develop, not necessarily through incentives, but there's more to it than just incentives that go into it.
Great, thank you. Kind of sticking to a similar subject, but a little bit of a different take on it. And we'll start with Patty on this one. As West Fargo continues to grow, how do you balance the need for new development while reinvesting in existing neighborhoods and aging infrastructure?
That's a great question. And, being part of the school district, we've seen that growth in the 19 years that I've been on that board. And I think you have to have the mentality is that West Fargo is West Fargo. There isn't a new West Fargo and old West Fargo. Is that we're all West Fargo and we need to take care of each other. So as we look at development, I think we just have to be responsible in the services that we provide and make sure that the community feels safe no matter where they live so that they want to stay here. And continue to be a part of our community. I don't know if there's an easy way to say that you can ignore what's needed in new growth, but it's a budget. It goes back to the budget. So where can we find ways to save money is the infrastructure going to cost more that makes that suffer? Then maybe we delay the development until we can't afford it.
Thank you. Tyler?
I think, so new growth should never come at the expense of current residents. Just threshold idea. When I have attended some of the commission meetings, many of the times the sales tax or different funds that the city has came in to supplement the improvements that are being made in the core area. That's really, really beneficial to that old part of West Fargo. I contrast that with another city, Williston. There's not, everybody's experiencing these problems around the state, that these developments that were built in the 60s to the 80s need this infrastructure improvements. And, now it's on our doorstep and we have to deal with it. But at just the threshold level, you should never develop or grow at the expense of current residents. And I think that the city's done a good job.
Thank you. John?
I know we say Old West Fargo or core area, or new developments, those kind of, we use it as a kind of where we're talking about. I understand that, but really if you're in West Fargo, you're in West Fargo. There's no part that the commission doesn't represent. We're at large, we represent everybody, right? So how you balance the core area or the Old West Fargo with the new development, I think the focus has been so much on new development that the core area has been neglected. I think it's going to need to be looked at seriously as far as what's going on in there. Some of the homes in that area, they could be hit with assessments that are greater than the original purchase price of the house. I mean, that's just going to be unsustainable for those residents. And those residents deserve to stay in their homes as long as they wish to as well, not be priced out by the government.
Thank you. David?
In the last 5 years, West Fargo has grown 1.3%, 1.3%, 1.3%, 1.5%, and 1%. Our growth is the slowest it's been in decades. And yet we're still suffering in some of the older areas of the town from trying to help pay for continuing to be new infrastructure as well as the old infrastructure. When we talk about raises for people or incentives for others, we should look also at, so what are the people who are living on Social Security, what type of raise did they get this year? What about some of the retired people who are still going hand to foot? How are they doing? I think we need to pay more attention to some of those before we think about how we do the new things. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, for the next question, there's one from the audience that talks a little bit more about the city's growth master plan. And so as the city develops a master growth plan for areas northwest and southwest of I-94, which area would you prioritize and why? And for this one, we'll start with Tyler.
So depending on what we're prioritizing, growth area master plan, so we're assuming that it's new area, it's green land development. I think, as I've said in a prior candidate forum, infrastructure is going to drive how we grow, I think. And meaning that I think that north of the interstate, just obviously will grow first because you've got the infrastructure up there to drive everything already. So south of the interstate, I think will come second, although that I know that there's appetite to grow south first. But inside of all that, I think you have to, again, strategically try to and thoughtfully move the needle on the commercial development in those new areas, which, those are going to be really exciting conversations that happen, and they're going to be very challenging. But I think that we have a city that will bring and incentivize good business.
Thank you. John?
I haven't had a chance to completely digest the growth master plan. I did take a look at it, and from what it looked like, the primary area they're looking to develop is along I-94, straight out on either side. Is that a bad idea? No, not necessarily, because that's green land, it's open, it could be developed, and with the Fargo diversion on the other side, it should be secure. I don't know that that's a wrong idea. I do think it's going to need to be a little bit north, up by the lagoons, and it's going to need to be controlled pretty well, but there's other things that need to be looked at in terms of, the infrastructure to get that growth in there. And you definitely have to work with state agencies as far as, especially if you want to develop on the interstate to get an interchange put in, North Dakota DOT. I mean, that's not there's a lot of things that are going to have to go into all of it, but I just started getting into that growth master plan, and that's where it looked like the development was more along I-94.
Thank you. David?
Well, for years, commissioners have talked about changing the 70-30% ratio, where 70% of our community is residential, 30% is commercial industrial. Talked about it for at least 20 years. It hasn't moved much more than a point or so in any one direction in any 1 year. To do that, just do it 5% difference means that you do everything in the future for 5 years with just commercial and industrial. It's not realistic, but at least you can start with a step in that direction, because it would help the residential land tremendously. So I agree with John on this, is that start along the highway, because that's where you can really attract companies that want to distribute products and want to develop manufacturing that gets distributed to other places. I think that would work. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
First, I think the growth plan, I wanted to acknowledge, they did a great job about not just doing what the city wanted. They reached out to the county and to the school districts to find out what the goals are and long-term plans for both those organizations. I do think the growth is going to come on the north side just because of the infrastructure is already there. And feasibility-wise, it will cost a lot less to develop that area than to go to the southwest. And I know there's a lot of appetite from developers to do that, but cost-wise is what is the total cost? And I think the city and their planners will look at that completely to get a full picture of that. But Northwest right now, I think, is more feasible. And I think we're still going to need to find a way to get businesses, any kind of businesses that's needed up there to help sort of move the ratio, even though it's going to take a while to get past that 70-30.
Thank you. Again, staying in the same vein, but taking a little bit deeper dive into housing. And we'll start with John on this question. A recent MetroCog study said that, found that the region needs about 16,400 additional housing units over the next 10 years. What should West Fargo's strategy be to expand both the supply and diversity of housing while keeping it attainable for residents? While keeping it attainable for residents. Yep.
Attainable.
Yep.
Attainable. Last time we ran, there was a lady who mentioned starter homes, and it was more of a, I can't remember what she called them. It's been a little while.
It's an in-law.
What's that?
In-law.
Like an in-law house, you could do some of that, but it was more of a like one bedroom, smaller homes. Almost like a mobile home park, but they weren't mobile homes. They were permanent structures that you could buy in at a cheaper rate, obviously, because they're smaller. You could build some equity, take that equity, then move it on to a larger home as if you got married and had kids, whatever, however you want to. But I think that would be a good way to do that, to have an area where you get some, and maybe not just an exclusive area, but an area where you can put in some of those more starter homes like that. Where it allows people to, get into a cheaper home because it's smaller, but a real home, not a stick-built home, and build the equity, and then hopefully move on to a different home as they grow and Sorry.
Thank you, David.
When it comes to residential growth, we had panels with the builders and with the realtors. My question to them was, that what do you recommend? Because the city doesn't build homes. The city doesn't make homes more affordable. The builders build the homes. The realtors sell the homes. They should know where the demographics are, where the demographic needs are. So I want to know what they have to recommend on how we would grow residentially. because they're the ones who are going to end up doing it. I believe in cases like this that the government should be as involved as little as possible and let the democratic method of supply and demand and capitalism work. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
This is an excellent question. I think we've got a couple of things going on. With interest rates going up, what was happened is that people who would normally move out of their homes, including myself, have interest rates at 2%. So why would I leave my home to go into another home to spend more money so that allow a family to move into my home? I mean, that's question number one. So I think the attainability is going to have to come down to, some could be for building. I'm going to go back to, I know that we don't like incentives for new homes. Personally, I think that was a great way to allow people to afford to get in. I know they had the 2-year cliff coming behind that. I think we need a better job with the banks and the new buyers to explain that. But we may need to put more money into encouraging people who currently live in our older homes through some financing. I know some of the banks do some for, if your home's under $300,000, they'll help you to refurbish. I think if we can refurbish some of our older houses, that those people maybe find that they're more valuable at that time. They'll incentivize them to move up and maybe open up more of the affordable housing in that lower market. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler?
Just a couple facts that I think are true. Average age of a home buyer in West Fargo is between 35 to 40 years old. The average home price is between $375,000 to $400,000. The average salary, the average household income for before you get into a home, maybe it's 85 grand. I think in West Fargo it's maybe 105. So let's just take that equation. You have a quarter of the average home price that you need to get into, just at an average household. You have a quarter. Your interest rates are historically low, but on a $400,000 house, that is significant. Just to get your foot in the door, you got to have 3 to 5%. That's 20 grand at least. So anything that we can do as a city to, I've said it before, remove barriers to entry. People need to be able to get into homes because it's part of the American dream. And that's what I would approve. I would push that, as long as it doesn't materially affect the budget.
Great, thank you. This was brought up earlier by John when we were talking about incentives. It's workforce. That's another huge thing. The Chamber of Commerce, obviously, we continue to hear this as a challenge from the business community's workforce. And when we look at our region competing on a national and international scale for workforce attraction, what should the city's role be in helping attract and retain talented individuals in our community to support the future growth and economic competitiveness of the region? And we'll start with David on this one.
The Shelley Institute has invited me, as well as other community leaders, to be part of luncheon meetings periodically with the Federal Reserve in Minneapolis. And this is one of the big topics that we talk about. And I remember at my first meeting, I said, hasn't attracting workers been a part of North Dakota since the beginning? It's not like people wake up in California and say, when I grow up, I really want to move to North Dakota. I want to freeze in the winter and I want to get hot in the summer. So to attract people to North Dakota is a state issue more than a local issue. From a local perspective is how do we get people to come to our community versus, say, Grand Forks or Bismarck. And the best thing we can do there is do what we are doing. Good health care, good retail, good parks, schools. We're not going to attract the people necessarily unless we've got the businesses that are doing the attraction themselves. They know what they need better than we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
First, I would start out that we have to do a better job of sharing our story. I think as a state, North Dakota does some of that. I think as a city, we do some of that. But I think we need to do a better job of sharing. Why is it that you want to be a West Fargoan? I think that sharing, our employment rate, the housing, our schools will attract people. But I think it has to be, as soon as they pull up the page, where do I want to move in North Dakota? West Fargo needs to be that primary one. The other thing is partnerships. I think the city has done, I had this conversation before with you, some work with sharing, making sure that we work with schools, because schools are the avenue for the workforce in our community. Once we get through the schools, they work with the colleges. The colleges then can work with the city better to make sure that the workforce that we have for the city is here. So when we have industries come in, that we're prepared. We don't always know what those industries are going to be, so if all of a sudden diesel mechanics gets to be the hot job, then our schools need to be notified of that to allow our kids to have the opportunity to say, here's a good opportunity going forward. Our businesses will give you scholarships. They come to work in our community and promote more growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler?
I remember a lot during the last governor administration. One of the quotes that was used a lot was, there's 5 to 10 jobs open per person throughout the state of North Dakota. And, I know that economic times are a little different now, but I think, there's plentiful work throughout North Dakota. Oil, energy, ag, tech, I can't remember the name of the entity, but Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo Metro is one of the most economically diverse areas in the country. Like, I think maybe number 1 or something. It's extraordinary. It's remarkable. If we can do anything at the city level, again, it all comes back to housing, making sure we have affordable housing, diverse housing stock, everything that most people that are listening have already heard before. So I think that we need to try to do that as much as possible.
Thank you. John?
I think probably the best thing you could do is to get government out of the way. Government doesn't make anything, it only takes. And if you get the government out of the way, but there are things that we can do to make West Fargo attractive. Lower taxes, reducing it or eliminating specials, those kind of things can make things more attractive to live here, to work here. And if you get the people that want to live here, then you're going to get the business that'll follow behind it. Schools, yes, we have good schools. We need to focus on, what is coming, or what is, there's tech with the data centers that are coming. Where's the focus? Excuse me. Where's the focus need to be? Trade schools, not just universities. Trade schools. We need to push trade schools. We need to push everything, because we need plumbers just as much as we need. Sorry, Tyler, lawyers.
Thank you. Again, sticking kind of in the same light, we often hear that, quality of life and placemaking are major factors when we're talking about attracting businesses, residents, and visitors to our region. We'll start with Patty on this one. How should art, recreation, culture support West Fargo's long-term growth and competitiveness?
I think it's essential. I think it's essential. I think that people who like to live in your community, enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the amenities, stay. So if they're missing something, then what comes? So I think there has to be a partnership between parks, schools, city, county. We're all interconnected, and I think the stronger that the recreation part of it is, I think we draw more people into the community, more people come visit our community, so not even just our current residents, which brings in more sales tax, that hopefully they're using our hotels, they're enjoying our concerts, which then in turn just helps taxpayers. We get more sales tax, which then takes the burden off our own taxpayers. So I think they're all interconnected.
Thank you. Tyler?
So I've lived in Williston, Grand Forks, Bismarck, Mandan, now Fargo, West Fargo. And you can throw a rock and you have a hard time hitting a park in West Fargo. That was one of the reasons that we enjoyed coming here, is that we knew that wherever we lived and chose to live in our house, we'd be in close proximity to 3 or 4 parks. The flip side, of course, very expensive. The equipment and everything is very expensive. So there's always an implicit tax burden that you pay along with that. I think, though, as Patty mentioned, I think it's an integral piece of quality of life in a community. And I'd rather live in a community with recreational accessibility more than less.
Thank you. John?
I don't know exactly what everybody would want for recreational opportunities. I think that's something that you'd have to listen to your constituents on and figure out what it is, where it is they want to go, some parks. Is it walking trails, biking trails, those kind of things. It's not just I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all answer. Recreation it's different to everybody. Some people just like to go for a walk. Some people want to go play basketball. Somebody, so it's going to be a little bit different, and you just have to find out, what the trends are and try to meet those without, breaking a budget.
Thank you. David?
A lot of my experience over the years has been working with volunteers who were new and locally in businesses and other activities. And they always said, geez, what is there to do here? I say, well, here, let's look it up. We can talk to the chamber. They've got lists of activities and different groups. What are you interested in? Don't wait for them to contact you, contact them, because there's probably already an activity going on that you're interested in. And so it's more a matter of just maintaining what we're doing. It's a great place to live, a lot of things to do, and if you can't find something that you want to do, if you're not already here, then start it up yourself. You'll be surprised how many other people want to do it too. People will make this happen. Don't need the city to do it for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Public safety is obviously a huge priority for a lot of folks. So how critical to you, and we'll start with Tyler on this one, is public safety to the vibrancy and vitality of our region? And what approaches would you use to support and strengthen public safety in West Fargo?
So currently, I'm participating, I was accepted into the West Fargo Citizens Police Academy. Throughout that experience, I've had the opportunity to learn about the technology that the police department uses, the vehicles that they use, the animals, the education that they continually engage in to serve, as police officers. And it's second to none. They're great. Our police force is great for our city. On the other side, the fire side, I know that we've got a world-class facility. I know that we've got a world-class, training for our firefighters, that I believe they provide training for other firefighters around the state. If we can continue to maintain that trajectory for, all of our public safety individuals, I think that that's what we have to do. And I think that they'll take the lion's share of most of our essential services general fund budget.
Thank you. John?
I think the entire city and civilization collapses if you don't have police and fire. Police and fire are two primary things that citizens can't provide for themselves. I mean, I guess you could hire somebody to guard your house while you're gone, but it's the structure of society. I think it needs to be protected, it needs to be encouraged, it needs to be supported. It's critical and with safe streets and it makes living here better. Right? If you have the fire response is 3 minutes to get to your house. If you have a small fire, it might save your house. And those are the things that like insurance looks at too. When you're looking at housing affordability, it's insurance costs. What's the fire response to your home? There's all kinds of things. What's the police response? I mean, and I think we have two great departments here. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's critical.
Thank you. David?
I agree with what I've heard already. We've got great police and fire, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs says safety is one of the most important needs we have, primary needs we have. I'd also like to call out, especially present here today is Commissioner Olson, is our fire department is certified, I'm using the wrong word, but they're certified as being, through their association, as being a great department. Very few fire departments have that certification, and that's an important thing to help instill safety in people. And we have a low crime rate. That's important to help people feel safe in here. So obviously, it's the needs that you definitely need to support. For every customer, listening, I'm talking about a business person, every resident wants to have, and every business wants to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
Public safety is really the foundation of the community. I think if the community doesn't feel safe, businesses don't feel safe, then the people who visit here or people who live here don't feel safe. So I think it's imperative. We're very fortunate we have two great departments. Not every community can say that. As far as the budget side of it, you can't give all your money to public safety, but I do think it has to be one of the critical items that are addressed first, not the end. Sometimes that, you don't want them to be the sloppy leftovers, as some people will say so. But I really think that if we want people to move here, live here, and work here, public safety has got to be the foundation.
Thank you. We'll start with John on this question here. As a city commissioner, your role is to represent the city, but can you talk about your role in advancing the entire region?
I hadn't really thought about it that way too much, but I think as a city commissioner, you wanted to put your best foot forward representing West Fargo, and then as West Fargo would look good, so would the rest of the region. And I don't think you want to be complimentary to, we want to make sure, we don't, anything you do in West Fargo, you don't want it to hurt Horace or West Fargo or Mapleton. I mean, you want to try to, keep other partners in mind or your neighbors in mind. So, I mean, but it's really, its primary focus is West Fargo, but you don't want to harm your neighbors.
Thank you. David?
I'm backing John on this. If and when I'm elected as a commissioner, my responsibility is to people who elected me. Now, I support the region, support North Dakota, love North Dakota, but my responsibility is to the people who voted for me, who want us to make sure that their taxes are being used efficiently. And unfortunately, the folks in Wapaton and other places can't vote here. So I have to focus on those who are counting on me to take care of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
I agree. I think that we're responsible to the people who voted us in, but as West Fargo, as the community, and as our school districts, which I have an opportunity at the regional and state and even into the national level, is that I want West Fargo to be the place that everybody comes to us for the answers. I want us to be the answer people because we are successful, and I think our leadership and the ability to handle the growth that we've already had has shared with other communities that they're going to reach out to us and say, how did you do that? Where can I go? What are the resources we need? How do we get the public on board? How do we get a bond passed? Those are things I think the city and the commission can do. And I think that makes us good partners for the state and our region, but also just our community, because just because I live here, I may work in one of those smaller cities. So we're all interconnected.
Thank you. Tyler?
So the metro area, I think, it's unmistakable that, we pull business across the artificial lines and just as well as Fargo does, which I think is beneficial because we feed each other's economies through sales tax and lodging tax and everything else. But I want to echo what Mr. Withey, mentioned, is that you got to look out for number one. And, I think just as Ms. Stenman said, if we can lead in all of the areas, and you look in the mirror and that's who you're trying to improve on, every day is just, better than you were than yesterday. I think that's the type of mentality that we have to lead with, all the while knowing that, we are part of a municipal ecosystem. There's so much happening throughout the metro that is mutually beneficial to all parties.
Thank you. I am going to pull out some more questions from the audience here that were submitted. There's been concerns expressed about the city's level of debt. How do you assess the current situation, and what strategies would you propose to manage or reduce it? I think we touched on this earlier, but David, I'll give you another shot at that one.
Well, I believe earlier John mentioned our debt has been increasing dramatically. Now, it's okay if you've got methods to pay it off. And unfortunately, what we've been doing is we've been taking advantage of some of those methods and using it for other purposes. Our general fund, reserve fund, has almost been cut in half from its peak in 2019, partially because we've been using the money for other purposes. Our capital infrastructure tax fund, which is supposed to be used for capital infrastructure, is being used this year for $2.5 million worth of operating expenses, when we're told that it would only be used for capital infrastructure, not for operating. That's what the city told the residents. and I have Amtrak. I'm derailed. The question, where was I headed?
Let me just go back here.
My
Sorry.
time's almost up anyways.
It just got deleted, so, we were talking about the debt, and
Debt.
how would you, what areas would you specifically,
Cut costs. Cut costs, reconsider growth.
thank you. Patty?
Excellent question. I think that this would require me to dive more into exactly what they consider the excessive debt. I know that we are bonded to cover specials, which, in turn allow our taxpayers to have less money or a better interest rate to cover those specials. But I think I would need to have a more in-depth conversation with the business manager, the city planners, to see exactly where it is that we could maybe save some money in there. So we'll leave it at that today.
Okay, and I'll just restate the question, sorry about the confusion there. There's been concerns expressed about the city's level of debt. How do you assess the current situation? What strategies would you propose to manage or reduce it? Tyler?
Bond debt, I think, is what we're talking about. Bond debt is neither good nor bad debt, it's just debt. It runs with the land for special assessments, and if I move tomorrow, somebody will come in and pay that debt. If there is a concern that a default may happen on the existing debt, I think we've got bigger problems than just bond debt. Where we're at today, where we can address these things, is I think, understand and educate, and, if we've got an 850 credit score as an individual and it drops down to 775, I'm not too worried about it. As long as it doesn't materially impact my bond rating as a city to obtain competitive interest rates for the bonding that I want to go out and do, I don't mind it. I'm not concerned about it right now.
John?
I guess I have to disagree with Tyler. I think debt is bad. I don't think, there is good debt that, you take on in a proper role, but if the city's $138 million in debt, if they're paying 2% interest on that, that's 2% that's taken away from taxpayers, because the taxpayers are the ones paying that, not the city. When we talk about the city, the taxpayers are paying that. I don't know I couldn't get a good answer on the interest rate that the city charges the citizens to maintain that debt on your special assessment. So if they get a loan for 2%, they charge you 3%. I couldn't get a good answer on that. But it's not, when we say it's the city's debt, it's our debt. If we have to pay it off. We have to find ways to cut costs to pay that debt down. The more the debt is paid down, the less that 3% cap gets into our pocket. If $138 million, 2% interest every, year, even if you do it yearly, that's a lot of money.
Thank you. And just the last question before we go to the rapid response. What is one thing the current commission has, and we'll start with Patty on this one. What is one thing that the current commission has done well, and what is one thing you would change?
One thing they've done very well is I think they're looking out long-term. They've relied on MetroCog. They're doing the long-range facility planning. They've talked with community members. I know they've spoken to the school district to make sure that we're all on the same page so that they're not doing something that maybe would hurt. I'm going to speak with school district because I know that. But, it's easy to say, let's go ahead and develop this whole area and then find out there's not room for the kids in the schools, which means that the schools then say, what do you do with the kids and how do you do? So I think they've done a great job with that. What do I think that they need to do better? I think every day we can always do better. I don't think any organization is perfect. I think the illusion of communication is that it's an illusion. You think you do a great job at communication, but it's never enough. So to continue to find ways to improve on communication and do a better job of sharing our story. So whatever that takes, if that's social media, public forums, I'm not sure, but I think that to bring to light how well we are doing.
Thank you. Tyler?
I think the planning department of the city of West Fargo does a very good job of obtaining federal and state grants for infrastructure. I think that none of us truly understand the beneficial fiscal impact to all of us in obtaining those grants and the work that goes into obtaining those grants, just because obviously it helps bring down the cost on an individual level. One thing that I disagree with is short-term rental ordinance that was passed recently within the last 6 months. Mr. Withy knows it well. I came in, I was opposed to it because it essentially makes owning and operating a short-term rental or commercially utilizing your residential property easier than running a in-home daycare. You need a permit to run a short-term rental, and you don't in a daycare, a home daycare situation. But you do need to live in your home to run a home daycare. You don't need to do that in a short-term rental, and I disagree with that.
John?
I think they've supported the police and fire very well. As we've noted that the police department is very good and the fire department is a very top-notch department. And if you ever go meet with somebody at the fire department, you will learn the meaning of esprit de corps. I mean, they are fantastic. They are just on top of everything. And things I think they could do better. There's a lot of things we could always be better at, but I think the one thing that I would change is I would try to change the mentality, and it's kind of the definition of insanity, doing the same thing every day and expecting a different result. We have to do something different, because if we don't do something different today, it's not going to change tomorrow. And I think that's what we need to look at.
David?
Well, I'm going to sound like an echo here. I too really believe that support for public safety has been awesome here, and is what's helped make this community great. Tyler, I too have noticed that they've done a great job of finding funds and grants from other places, sources that we can use here to get infrastructure in particular done, and make it happen. As far as things that they could have done better, I too agree with that short-term rental situation. Do you realize that businesses now are operating in residential neighborhoods and paying residential property taxes? I just can't fathom how that can be allowed. The other thing I wish they'd done better was keep track of the finances. Again, they don't review monthly financial statements. In fact, for a year, they didn't receive monthly financial statements, much less discuss them. Need to do a better job of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to our rapid response segment of tonight's discussion. And we, again, for the folks up on the dais here, during this rapid response section, the debate, candidates must answer the questions in a succinct manner, so a word or a phrase or a couple of words, and I'll kind of prompt what I'm looking for in each one. So we'll start with Tyler on this one. We'll work our way through like we have been. Tyler, what is the city's biggest asset and biggest liability?
Biggest asset is its staff. Its biggest liability is the inability to grow with the interstate blocking its ability to grow.
John?
I think one of the biggest assets the city has is its location with the two interstates crossing through. That's unbelievable for transportation. Biggest asset biggest liability is debt. It's debt.
David?
I'm torn, but I too would agree that the biggest asset is our staff. I would also say that our biggest liability is the lack of mentoring of our management team, which is typically common and standard procedure in other organizations. We need to do a better job of that. Thank you.
Patty?
Biggest asset, I would definitely say our location. I agree, the interstates are, going forward, will be a prime location and will only benefit our city. Probably the negative will be to manage growth and not to keep taxpayers from kind of taking the burden.
John, in 3 words, how would you describe your leadership style?
Consistent, fair, and mentoring.
David?
Open to new ideas, skeptical, just to make sure you're not making a mistake.
Patty?
Consistent, fair, and financially prudent.
Tyler?
Prudent, professional, and persuasive.
David, what is West Fargo's most urgent infrastructure need?
taking care of the aging infrastructure.
Patty?
Aging infrastructure.
Tyler?
Moving the needle on the commercial development.
John?
I'd have to say aging infrastructure as well.
For Patty, what would be the first thing you would do after being elected to the city commission?
Make sure that I meet with someone from each department.
Tyler?
I'll probably take 2 days of annual leave and meet with each department on their budget.
John?
I've met with some of the leaders, but I think I would just make sure that I'm open to citizens' comments or make myself available to the citizens.
David?
If I was elected, first thing I would do is ask the city administrator, so what now? The staff are yours, who do you want me to meet with, and how do you want me to do that? I've already done research budgets. I've already researched those items, so I'm ready to hit the ground running on the budget.
With the last one here, Tyler, in one word, how would you describe West Fargo's growth?
Worthwhile.
John?
I don't know what one word would fit it the best, but
You can use a hyphen if you want.
I think sustained, I guess it's been, like he said, fairly consistent,
David?
It's yet to come.
Patty?
Exciting.
Well, great. Now we will move into the closing comments, and so each candidate will be given 1 minute for closing comments here, and we will start in the reverse order, so John will get the first bite at the closing comments.
Well, I want to thank you for being here tonight or being online watching or watching the recorded eventually. I'm running for city commission, not to push an agenda, but to try to bring change, fiscal responsibility to the city. If you've had enough of irresponsible spending or overspending, if you've had enough of special assessments, if you've had enough of the way things have always been done to keep doing it that way, then if you've had enough like I have, I would ask you to vote for me. I want to see the city government run efficiently, not over you.
Thank you. Tyler?
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you to everybody that's listening online. Civic engagement, as I became a husband and a father, have become so much more important to me in my life. In seeing particularly somebody early in life be representing my interests on, whether it's state legislature or other political subdivisions, it's very important to me because we all have a vested interest in the future, and I think that having representation on these boards is very important. The closing statement for me is vote for me. It'll be predictable. It'll be worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
Thank you again for having us here. Civic engagement is part of my core. I think my 19 years as a school board member, some people think you're crazy, but I believe that we can make a difference when we get involved. I'm truly a leader that is consistent. I pride myself in listening more than I talk before I make decisions. And my goal is I really want West Fargo to continue to be the place that families want to live, work, and raise their kids. I think if we're all working on that together, that it only makes West Fargo even better. And I think we already have a great city. And as new people move in and businesses move in, I want to make sure that they feel the same way.
Thank you. David?
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and thanks for considering me. I see this as a matter of civic responsibility to run for something like this. It's not something that you do to increase your position in the community or to increase your job opportunities. You do it because you feel you have the background and the time to make your community a better place. I've done the research. I spent 3 years researching the issues in the city. I understand them. I can hit the ground running and really hit that budget quickly. I don't need to be coached up as a football team would do with their players. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to represent your interests. And based upon that, I hope you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Well, let's give a round of applause to our fantastic candidates. Thank you so much. Again, thank you to our candidates for sharing their perspective this evening, and thank you to all of you for either joining in person or joining online or watching the recording of this important conversation. Conversations like this are an important step, but this is not the final step. What matters most is what comes next, taking what you learned here tonight and continuing the conversation, and most importantly, making a plan to vote on June 9th. To learn more about these candidates and others running in our community, we encourage you to visit votefmwf.org, a nonpartisan voter resource powered by the Chamber Center for Civic Engagement. Local elections have a direct impact on our daily lives, from how our city grows to how it serves the people and business, how it serves its peoples and businesses. Your voice plays a critical role in shaping the future. On behalf of the Chamber and the Building Industry Association of the Red River Valley, thank you so much for your time this evening and your attention and your commitment to being civically engaged. Have a great evening, and don't forget to vote on June 9th.
Thanks, Captain.